Hey, this is Walt from Stogie.com here with not quite a video cigar review, but instead I've got a product review for you today. The reason being, I've been kind of squeezed for time. Things have been rather hectic and haven't been able to spend the few hours it takes to do a full-blown cigar review front to back. So, wanting to do some kind of video content, I sort of brainstormed on what I could possibly do, and the subject of accessory reviews came up. So I thought, you know what, I've got a cutter, I've had it for some time, it's about time that I finally reviewed it, so why not just throw some thoughts down on video as well as do a written up post and make a complete review out of it. So the product I'm reviewing was sent to me by Xikar some time ago. Around the time I did the lighter reviews, they also sent me a Xikar Xi3 carbon fiber cutter to review. There wasn't a time frame set on the review. It sort of fell on the back burner and I really didn't get around to it. I couldn't tell you how many times I've used the cutter. It actually sits kind of off to the side of my computer. It's usually, there's a 50-50 chance I'm either going to pick up the Xikar cutter or my polio cutter from the little stack of stuff I have next to the computer whenever I'm smoking a cigar in this room. And as far as numbers go, I don't know. This cutter's probably cut at least 100 cigars, so I think I have a pretty well-rounded opinion on the cutter itself. I keep lifting this up and you see a black sheath. This sheath does not come with any of the Xikar cutters. It is something that they offer you for free. However, it is an after-the-fact thing. After you purchase the cutter, Xikar wants you to register the product so that you can return it if there's ever a problem. They have your name in a database, the product that you own and whatnot. And when you register your product, they send you a sheath. In the case of the lighters, they send you those little pouches. I don't have any handy. And the cutters, they send you this Stingray-like case. Actually, I think the Stingray case is leather, and this one just happens to be something relatively inexpensive, pleather, more or less. So this sleeve is actually separate. It doesn't come with your particular cutter. In this case, the cutter I have is, as I said, the Xi3 model, which is different from the other models. In that this is all metal with the exception of the grips. Some of the other cutters are plastic, like this one here, where you've got a plastic body, plastic grips, and then everything else is metal. The blades, the two little wings that stick out of it. And in this case, it is metal body and wood wings. And this is a faux finish. I'm not quite sure what the wood is. It's completely black and it's got this carbon fiber appearance to it. So this is more of a showy cutter than this one, which is more of a utility tool. And just some generic information direct from Xikar. They say that all of these cutters have a ring gauge capacity of 54. Essentially, you could stick a 54 ring gauge cigar completely through this cutter and it will cut it in half. They say depending on how much you cut, you can cut up to a 58 ring gauge cigar with this cutter. However, I'm positive I've cut larger than that with this cutter because of just how little I take off the cigar. All of these cutters are made with 440 stainless steel with an HRC of 57. And the bodies, or the grips, vary from cutter to cutter, depending on what you get. Again, the Xi3s are more of a showy cutter. They have what they call carbon, which is this one, beechwood, redwood, an STK, which I'm not sure about that, a Spectra, bead blasted stainless, and zebra wood. So if they're sticking with exotic woods, this may be ebony. And this happens to be the more expensive cutter of the list. This one's $99.99, and all the other Xi3s are $79.99. And if I can look really quick, I'll be able to tell what the Xi2s are without spending too much time. Now the Xikar Xi2s are $40. They come in a variety of colors. And they also have a Xi1, which I believe is an aluminum body, not plastic. And those are $60. So anyway, the cutter itself. What do I think of the cutter itself? The action is kind of good, or kind of cool. Hit a button, blades fly open. There's some pressure to them. They're spring loaded, so there's some resistance. It's not a matter of these things falling back closed and whatnot. It fits the hand well. It is meant to fit in the palm of your hand, or the web of your hand, and kind of collapse your hand around the cutter. When it's open, the placement in your hand gives you I don't know, enough strength to quickly close and snap the cutter shut and virtually cut that 56 ring gauge cigar in half if you were ever to come into a situation where you needed to cut something that large. The fit and finish is great. This cutter looks fantastic. It's got tons of fingerprints all over it and smudges and whatnot from being used so often, but it looks pretty good nonetheless. It looks like there's a plastic coating on this, unless of course I was supposed to take this off at some point, but it's on there pretty good, and it doesn't appear as though it's supposed to come off. But that's a little scratched up. I got a couple of air bubbles in it. But all in all, it's a very solid cutter. It fits well in the hand. However, there are some downsides to it. I can never cut a cigar straight with this. And the reason I think that I have this problem is because of the way it fits in your hand. Okay, so it goes in your hand, collapse your hand around it, and squeeze. Just sort of go through the motions with a cigar. I'm not going to cut it, but take the cigar, cutter goes in place, squeeze. And what ends up happening is, especially with torpedoes, I think that the twisting action of my hand when I close the cutter, I get a little bit of a twisting motion. So what happens is, especially on torpedoes, I get this angular cut, and I don't do it intentionally, but it's kind of annoying to look down and see the cigar cut crooked. I don't have that problem with the polio, for instance, because I'm cutting more with the fingers and not with cutting more with the fingers and not with the actual closing of my hand, as in in this case. When I'm cutting parejos, I usually don't have that problem. It's nice clean cut, not crooked or anything. Actually, I'm taking such a little bit off, I really wouldn't be able to notice if it was crooked. But I suppose you could use your fingers. However, you get a lot more strength by placing it in the palm of your hand. Anything else that's worth mentioning? Would I pay $100 for this cutter? Possibly. It's more of a showy cutter, though. I'm afraid to stick this thing in my pocket, or at least I was before I got the sheath. And as a result, it did a lot more sitting than it did, actually cutting cigars. The really big difference between these two cutters, aside from this one looks a lot different than this one, is the weight. Since this is all plastic, it's relatively light. This one's got some weight to it. It's good in the sense that it feels like a nice solid tool. It's kind of a downside because it's heavy. You got to stick this thing in your pocket with a lighter, and next thing you know, you're pulling your pants down. But all in all, it's got a nice fit and finish. I like the cutter. It operates well, with the exception of torpedoes. I have a tendency to twist my hand, like I said, and I get a crooked cut because of it. I don't remember what the blade offset is between the bottom side of the cutter and the blade itself. However, if you were to take this cutter and lay it on a table, you could take your cigar and put it through the hole and bump into the table and actually use it as a stop, and then snap the cutter closed, and it's sort of the easy way out, or the easy way of cutting cigars. Because of the depth of cut, it makes it really easy to do it with this cutter. The polio takes way too much off. I really wouldn't recommend that method. But if you are relatively new to cigars and you want to make sure that you're not cutting off too much and feel a little more comfortable in what you're doing, just open the cutter, stick it on a table, drop the cigar in, and with your free hand, close the cutter, and you're good to go. Again, I don't remember the cutting depth, but it was one of the shallowest I've seen of the cutters that I reviewed some time ago for Doc Stogie Fresh. So 10 minutes is probably way more than you needed to hear on the Xikar Xi3 cutter. But there's my opinion of it. So, till next week, happy smoking and all that stuff. I'll catch you later.